All right, so officially welcome. Really good expression session. I enjoyed that anyway. I hope you did as well. So let's get into today's teaching. Got a quote, an email, which we'll have a look at, and then I'll take us into today's lesson, and we're going to do a bit of breath work. So I'll spend 10-15 minutes extra just taking you through really the two fundamental techniques that I think it's important to practice in breathwork. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. So Kim, if you can read that headline quote for us, please.
Excuse me. We all draw breath and life from the same source of creation.
Yeah, a very simple quote, but profound nevertheless. So we draw the breath and life from the same source of creation. This is the one universal truth that this guy called Bryant McGill is a best-selling author, activist, social entrepreneur, just stating the truth about the source of all life, the fundamental unity. It stems from the shared source and the connection of the breath to this source, how we can connect to our source through our breathing. So when you look at ancient classical languages like Greek, Latin, and Sanskrit, and they use the same word for breath, life, energy, and spirit. And that's pneuma in Greek, spiritus in Latin, prana in Sanskrit. Same word. It's interesting. In these ancient languages. In the ancient times, they had more access to the spirit. So they understood this. These practices were relatively more common in the cultures. If you look at another culture, an ancient aboriginal culture, for example, in Hawaii, before it was colonized, the shamans, or the kahunas, as they were called, knew that you could bring in positive energy and expel negative energy using your breath, which is exactly what you're doing whenever you listen to one of the breath breaks that I send out. It's exactly that process of bringing in the positive energy and letting go of the negative, using the breath to facilitate that. Such a significant part of their lives that the Hawaiian word for breath, ha, begins the island's name and the name of the people, like ha. So they were all about the breath. And then, of course, the missionaries came and so-called civilized them, which is a joke, because actually they were much more advanced in many ways, with a belief in a monotheistic God and some, mental construct of it, rather than practical experiential knowledge obtained through your own experience, using things like the breath. So shallow mouth breathing tends to activate the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response mode, as it's been called. It stimulates the production of stress-producing hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine. These are the so-called stress chemicals that cause you to feel anxious and disturbed, because they're designed to get you into an optimal state for fighting or running away to save your life. It's called fight or flight. So the ego says, right, your life's at risk. You either got to fight for your life or you've got to run away. Elaine, when you have those urges to run away, it's part of that fight or flight system kicking in. It's the primal fear system. So that's why it's quite strong, as you know. I mean, those emotions and the chemicals that come can be quite strong, and so it can seem to be, very powerful, and you can't fight it. But you can, because there's another system in you called the parasympathetic nervous system that counters it, fortunately. So because, we see in in life and in things like the body's biochemistry, that the split in the mind is mirrored. You've got two systems and they do opposite things. Sympathetic, that's all about stress and fighting and fleeing and very primitive reactions. And then you've got the parasympathetic that allows you to let it go, to relax, to find peace, and to find these higher states of awareness, like flow, rather than being in fight or flight response mode. What happens when you're in the lower states, the fight or flight response mode, suppresses the proper functioning of your non-essential systems. So your digestive, reproductive, and immune systems, as three examples. Because they're not critical to your survival, they get suppressed to mobilize additional energy for your upcoming fight or flight. But the problem with triggering the stress response is that it's really not helpful in dealing with 99.99% of the situations we face in life, which are not life-threatening. Someone's, Elaine, you mentioned, people snubbing you or neighbors shouting at you. This is not a life or death situation.
No.
But your stress response might be the same. It kicks in the fight or flight response mode, and then you find yourself getting really stressed, and you can't really function that well with those stress chemicals going through your body. It's very difficult. Even if you're like, I had an interesting experience a few months ago, because I was staying with this lady and she called the police because I was trying to negotiate some modification of our agreement. It was rental. And instead of like just going, okay, well, let's talk about it reasonably, she was like, I'm feeling threatened, I'm going to call the police. I'm like, what? Like, seriously, you got to be kidding. So anyway, they came like half an hour later, but it was very interesting to observe the stress response playing in my body. Like, mentally, I was quite calm. I was like, okay, you can handle this. I haven't done anything wrong. It's like, just talk to them. But it kicked off these chemicals, stress chemicals in my body. And so I was like shaking. I was like, this is crazy. Like, on one level, I'm quite calm. On another, the body's shaking because it's like an overload of these stress chemicals that had been kicked in the moment she said, I'm calling the police, because that obviously just triggered like, oh my goodness, this is a threat in my mind. So you can't, really cope. You can't really function that well with an overload of stress chemicals. I found it, even with all the mind training, and I did some breath work and all of that. This certainly helped, but I still found it very challenging because those stress chemicals are running riot. And although I was mentally trying to stay calm, it was like on a, the so-called, well, not the physical level, it's the mind, the mind attached into the body mechanism was not comfortable, was not happy. But I was able to observe the reactions and go, okay, that's interesting. In some ways, it was a good learning experience, and I realized, okay, there's still more undoing to do, because when push came to shove, I still reacted in the fight or flight response way. Although I did certainly try to mitigate with parasympathetic. I wasn't like completely calm. There's no way I was completely calm. It was like I was like my stress levels were definitely quite a lot higher than normal, that's for sure. So fighting or running away from people is never the best way to deal with a conflict. Perfect lesson for you, isn't it? It's just interesting how these things come along, given the experiences you shared. And these reactions to apparently external threats only create more stress for you and everyone else involved. So you start freaking out, you start getting stressed, it creates more of the same. And the emotional responses are generally not skillful. Like in the Buddhist teaching, they say, this is skillful action. If you're stressed and you're in fear, you're panicking, it's not going to be a skillful response. It's going to be unskillful, which generally doesn't help the situation. It hampers it. It makes it worse. except in rare instances, like if it really is a life or death situation, you need a sudden surge of energy, maybe, okay, and you just did it. But even then, you would be interesting because you would be on almost like a flow state because you just do it. We've all heard the urban legends of women who've picked up cars when their babies have fallen under them. We've all heard that story. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But in the extreme, you just do it. All of the thinking mind goes out the way, and you would actually go into, although the stress response would be stimulated, you'd actually go into a zone as well. I think that's possible. So that's the stress response, that's fight or flight response, which you really don't want to activate. In contrast, when we breathe deeply through our nose, we activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which helps us to feel calm, relaxed, poised, which is a much better mental and emotional state in which to respond to any apparent external threats. So even if there's a life or death situation, you would still be able to deal with it better in a parasympathetic way. Activated parasympathetic, you're probably going to maybe need to do something, but not fearful. So you go into a flow state. Remember, a good example of that is that movie called Limitless. Did you both watch it with Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro? It's one of the movies I've recommended watching.
I think I did. Yes, I'm sure I did.
It's about the guy he's a kind of struggling writer and just can't get it together. He's focused.
Yeah, I did.
Finds a magic pill. It's a drug that switches on all his brain faculties and comes into like 100% brain function, which was really just a symbol. They used the drug in the movie, but it's really just coming into higher awareness. That was what the movie was really about. Activating your higher awareness and your true potential through that. So you remember his girlfriend was being chased by the killer.
Oh,
she was running away, and she ran into the park, and she's calling him on her mobile. She's really fearful, and he says, "Take the pill and wait 30 seconds, and you will know what to do."
Yeah, I did.
So that again, the pill was a proxy for higher awareness. So so get into your higher awareness, even though it's a life-threatening situation. The guy is actually trying to kill you. You will know what to do, and you will be able to do it extremely well because you're just going to be in the zone and focused, which is exactly then what played out. She was like, okay, I see what I could do. I could run across people over there instead of being trapped in my fear and waiting for him to come and find me, which he certainly would have. She's going to take explosive, powerful action. She just sprints and channels it all in a very focused way, sprints across the park to the people in the playground, and then takes one of the little boys and just swings him around and whacks the killer's knife out of his hand with the guy's gumboots. And then he's been slashed, and then she's able to get away. But so she was able to take really effective action in a life-threatening situation, but not being in fight or flight, being in a calm, focused flow state, which is what the drug put her into. But in real life, you would need to do something like breathwork to counter the sympathetic nervous system, put you into a flow state, even in a potentially life-threatening situation, which I believe is possible. I think it's not necessarily easy to do, but with enough mind training, you could do it and stay in flow, no matter what, and that would be a hallmark of an enlightened being. So some of the Eastern teachings, they have stories of Zen masters who will face an opponent, in some kind of verbal or physical combat, and they won't react. So the opponent's going to try and taunt them verbally and physically, and they just stay, they stay calm, stay in this Zen-like state, which then interestingly, that experience of doing it when you're in physical combat led to the development of the martial arts. Based on these higher teachings, they then developed these forms of combat that you could actually defend yourself if you needed to, but stay in a Zen type state, which is what the martial arts are. Okay, so a lot of these systems, yoga, Tai Chi, which led to Kung Fu, that's the martial art related to Tai Chi. Tai Chi is technically a martial art as well, although you never actually use it for combat. They practice breath awareness. So there's this deep diaphragmatic breathing as part of it. It's a wonderful tool for cultivating self-awareness, and it will also improve your mental and physical health and well-being if you do it regularly. It's a foundational practice that will support you in living a healthier, happier, and more effective life. So if you breathe deeply through your nose, while you focus all your attention on your breathing, I call it breath watching. The Buddhists call it anapanasati, anapana for short, which means mindfulness of breathing. And in the US in the 70s and 80s, a couple of guys like John Kabat-Zinn got hold of this, and they went, okay, we're going to just, again, take these principles and we'll rebrand it. We won't call it anapanasati because that's a bit exotic for a Western audience, so we'll call it mindfulness. Mindfulness of breathing, and they started teaching this breathing, and that became the foundation of the modern mindfulness movement, which is just based on these ancient spiritual practices like Vipassana. Effectively, mindfulness is Vipassana modernized, just Vipassana rebranded. It's the same thing, because you do breath awareness and you do body awareness. Both of those are included in the ancient Buddhist Vipassana meditation technique. And research shows that just 10 minutes of breath watching twice a day can profoundly change your life. I've done this research, and they go, yeah, it makes a difference if you do that. So there's a breathwork training session if you're after this. If you want to dive a bit more deeply into breathing, there's it's about a 45-minute breathing session that I recorded. We can do some of it just now. Well, I'll guide you through two, really what I view as foundational techniques in breathwork practice, both of which are incorporated into pretty much every meditation and breath break that you do. So I also explained the 8 limbs of yoga as a good model for structuring one's life in a way that supports your spiritual growth. As Vimala Thakur, an Indian spiritual teacher and social activist, said. So Elaine, if you can read that one. Do you need to be a bit bigger? So, make it a bit,
I'm okay.
Bigger.
Yeah, unless you put the hours, the house of your life, physical and verbal structures in order, the urge for exploration of that which is beyond time and space will remain only a wish in the mind. If there is a disorder in simple things of life like diet, sleep, exercise, breathing, trying to build a structure of exploration will be like building a house in the sand. Yeah.
Quite well said, really. Yeah, it's kind of Maslow's hierarchy, really, is what she's saying. Get the basics right, physical and verbal structures, which is what yoga is really about. The 8 limbs of yoga start with basic things like personal hygiene, cleanliness, your personal ethical conduct, how you carry yourself, how you behave towards others, as kind of basic foundations. It's like, okay, we'll get that stuff right first before you think you can attain enlightenment. Just start cleaning up your life on a physical, and then it leads to the mental and emotional level. So with yoga, they have yamas and niyamas, which are observances and abstentions. So they'll say, for instance, don't take intoxicants, don't use substances that intoxicate you, alcohol, drugs. That's I can't even remember. It's a niyama, I think. So one of the abstentions. A good, practice observance might be, okay, I'm going to do some breathing every day. I'm going to maintain personal cleanliness and make sure I wash every day, make sure I exercise every day, these kinds of things. And then that leads to the urge for exploration of that which is beyond time and space. So you start getting the basics in place. You've got a good foundation, solid foundation, like build your house on the solid foundation. Then the structure of exploration of that which is beyond time and space is there. And so, things like deeper meditation, some these practices that I've talked about, like breath work, kriya, and that, that can come. But if your life is chaos, then forget it. That's not going to happen. I saw it very clearly. One retreat I did, it was one of my Mozambique retreats, Kim, which you've been on. So we went to Ponta Dora in Mozambique, and there was a lady who literally had just come out of a rehab place. So she said, look, I'm addicted to cocaine and other stuff as well, I think. And naively, I was like, okay, well, come along. We'll give it a go. And needless to say, it didn't work because she wasn't even ready for some basic breath awareness. I remember the first evening, we're sitting down and I said, okay, so you're just going to, spend a few minutes, just observe your breath. Watch the breath, and she got freaked out. She's like, I can understand what you're trying to do, but I can't handle it. Like, just basic breath awareness. Never mind now, we're talking about high metaphysics of, this is all an illusion and stuff. She couldn't handle just watching her breath for a few minutes. So she ran away the next morning. She had one introductory evening, and then that was it. She ran away to town, and she's like, I'll check into a hotel and I'm out of here, because the ego couldn't handle it. It was just a very simple spiritual practice. When you addicted to something like that is extremely challenging, as I observed. So someone like that, that's why they have, okay, you've got to clean yourself up first. You've got to get off the substance first before you can start to build a structure of exploration. And breath work, meditation might help you, but you need a very disciplined environment. That's why they put them into institutions and stuff, because the mind of an addict is very undisciplined, very unruly and prone to just wanting to do its own thing, which is why they're addicts. So yeah, a good session. Then we went into the trimming of the crucifixion. So we had some, it was an interesting combination of breath work and practice, spiritual practice, and then some of the teachings of the course about transcending suffering caused by the ego's thought system, fear, attack, sacrifice, and death, symbolizing the crucifixion of Yeshua, by letting it go, choosing eternal life, symbolized by his resurrection instead. So good session. I recommend listening to it. Some good stuff, if I recall, in there. And then there's the movie Breathe. Did either of you watch that? A quick discussion about that.
No, I haven't had a chance. No.
No, I didn't have a chance, Jono.
Well, okay, so yeah, there it is. Watch it. I chose it because of the title, Breathe. It's really quite an inspiring story of overcoming difficulty, letting go of apparently insurmountable obstacles. That was really the theme of the story, because this guy, Robert Cavendish, real life story. He was an English guy who contracted polio, I think just after the war. He was born in 1930. So he contracted polio when he was 28. So he would have been like late 50s. And of course, they didn't really know how to treat it. And it was considered life-threatening. His doctor said, you've got a few months to live. You're going to be disabled forever. And their prescription was to just keep them in an institution, keep them institutionalized on some kind of ventilator because he couldn't breathe. So they had to have a ventilator, and they were like, you can't leave this institution because then you can't breathe and you'll die. And he was like, get me out of here. I can't live my whole life in an institution. So they took the machine, they bought the machine, and they took it home. They figured out how to use it, and then they figured out how to have a mobile machine, and had all kinds of adventures. They ended up going to Spain and actually lived quite a expensive life. And really his mission is to help his fellow patients to overcome the limitations of their apparent disability and still have a life, which is really quite an inspired purpose. And so that's what he and his team that developed around dedicated their lives to doing. And the movie is an outstanding example of two paths we talked about the other day. It's the path of bhakti yoga, which is devoted love. So his wife particularly, but the whole team, her twin brothers, and they had an inventor who was part of the team, really dedicated themselves to helping this guy to have a decent quality of life. And then, via him to helping others, because he then became an advocate for, changing the way the medical industry viewed these patients. Instead of treating them as, some kind of, you're incarcerated for life in this institution, saying, well, actually, maybe it is possible that they could have a reasonably normal life. We need to create technology, which they did. This inventor invented this technology that would allow him to be mobile and breathe. It worked. And so it was a whole new kind of wave of medical innovation and stuff. So very, very interesting example, true life story of the people walking the path of devoted love, which is called bhakti yoga, and the path of service to others, which is called karma yoga, by all of them, because they dedicated themselves to helping others like him to have a much better quality of life, not to be prisoners in an institution their whole life, to actually be able to have some kind of normal life. He was the example of that, and developing technology. So they created the technology in a company that would then sell these devices to help people. So quite inspiring. All about breathing overtly, but actually this these deeper spiritual truths coming through in it. So definitely worth watching. Okay, so that brings us to our lesson. So I think let's go into the lesson. Let's do it, and then I'll take you through a bit of breath work before we go into as part of the meditation, lead into the breath work. How does that sound?
It's good, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so
Jono, the breathing is going to be part of the meditation.
Yeah, so I'll guide you through the breath work as part of the meditation. We'll spend a bit more time on it. We'll just get into we'll do a couple of 3 power breaths, which is very similar to the breath hold. It is breath holding, very similar to the Kriya Yoga I talked about earlier. That's a sort of introduction or lead into the Kriya Yoga, and then we'll do some breath watching as part of the meditation. Okay, so let's have a look at the lesson. Why is my father? In fact, one of you read it in that form, and then we'll go into the detail of it. Elaine, do you want to read that?
Oh, yeah. God is my Father, and he loves his Son. Perfect love is my source, and it loves its extension.
The translated version, which has got a very different feel to it, doesn't it? God is my Father, and He loves His Son.
Mm.
You know, traditional Christian language doesn't work for a lot of people. That idea that I have a father, it's using that analogy that Jesus taught through. You know, He taught that way because people understood Father and Son. So He used those terms to try and help explain it. But because His audience probably wouldn't have got, if He'd said source and its extension, and He tried to express that in His time in Aramaic, it probably wouldn't have gone down too well, I'm imagining. Yeah. So He used Father and Son, because that was what was appropriate for His time. But we're now in a different time. We're in a time where possibly a bit more open, and we have this, language, English language, which has so many alternatives. Aramaic, I don't know how many words it had, but probably not as many as English. English has the most words of any language. I think it's 1 million actually, but they're about 150,000 in common usage. So we have these words like source and extension that help us to express Father and Son better. So, why not use it? Perfect love is my source, and its love, it loves its extension. Really takes you out of that sort of patriarchal, God is my Father, somewhere up there. And the idea with Father, because we've all had fathers, most people have had fathers, is some kind of authority figure. This is often the misconception. This authority figure that's going to judge you, potentially punish you for your misdemeanors. It kind of feeds into that thought system, doesn't it? You say Father and Son. Whereas perfect love is my source, and it loves its extension. It's got a very different, much softer feel. This is just my source that's loving itself, its extension. And there's no sense of an authority, it just is who I am. It's my true awareness. It's my being. So a very different understanding can come just from the change in language, which is why we do the translations. Okay. So let's go to lesson 224. Okay, so what is forgiveness? So we're supposed to read these. They're not very long, just 5 short paragraphs. So do you want to read that, Elaine or Kim? Read the first one.
Yeah. Letting go recognizes what I thought my companions did to me has not occurred. It does not pardon sins and make them real. It perceives there was no sin. And in that perception, I have let go of all my sins. What is sin except a false idea about perfect love's extension? Letting go merely perceives its falsity and therefore lets it go. What is then free to take its place is now the pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Thoughts on that? What's he saying?
Recognizing whatever has happened with our companions may appear like a sin, but it's not real. And letting go of the falsity and brings you to pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's what's there, that's there to take its place, pure formless awareness of perfect love. Yeah.
Does not pardon sin and make them real. It hasn't really occurred. See, this is the reinterpretation the Holy Spirit gives us. What I thought my companions did to me has not occurred. Even though you think it has.
Yeah.
The radical forgiveness is no, it hasn't really, because it's just a dream.
Yeah.
It happened in a dream, but the dream isn't real. So nothing in the dream is real. Therefore, it hasn't really occurred. In reality, it hasn't occurred. In the dream, it seems to have occurred. Perceives there was no sin, right? Because it never happened. The original idea of separation never happened. So none of it ever really happened. This is the reinterpretation of the Holy Spirit of everything that ego's made. None of it happened. So whatever seeming outcome of the guilt and sin has happened, fear and attack and accusation, blame, complaint, attack, feeling like you're a victim of the world, all of that is a consequence of the idea of sin. But the idea of sin isn't real, never really happened, because you can't really separate from your source. It's not possible. You just think you can. That's the whole problem. You think you can, and so you think you have, and now you're living in your thought, the effects of your thought, which is completely false. So your whole reality is now based on this false idea of separation. Okay, so happy to move on to 2. Kim, if you can read that one.
Giving thought is one which makes a judgment that I will not question, although it is not true. My mind is closed and will not be released. An unforgiving thought protects projection, tightening its bonds so that its distortions are more veiled and more obscure, less easily accessible to doubt and further kept from reason. What can come between a fixed projection and the aim that I have chosen as its wanted goal?
What's on that? What's he saying there?
Well, if it's, if unforgiving thoughts tightens its bonds so that the distortions are more veiled, more obscure, i.e. it's the opposite of being free through unforgiveness. What can come between a fixed projection and the aim that I have chosen as its wanted goal? So kind of it's in the way of reaching that love and freedom, because you're thinking an unforgiving thought. It's opposite of being of forgiveness, and it's holding on to what's not real. Yeah.
And if we demonstrate here, what we're doing is projecting and perceiving, projecting out our false beliefs. You look at this one. Project out our false beliefs. So that's coming from the desire to be a separate self and the belief system based on that. That gets projected out into the dream world, and it comes back through the experiences that we have. So people, situations arise that now seem to confirm that that belief system is true. Right? And you were talking about, well, I keep getting seemingly, snubbed or criticized. So, well, it's a projection of your own belief about yourself. It's now being projected out, manifested in apparent reality in the dream, and then it comes back at you. Now you see it as real, right? Well, you have a choice. This is why he focuses on changing your perception, saying, okay, well, these overtly you don't have much control over this because it's all subconscious. So it comes in, but what you do have control of is your perception of it. Whatever seems to be happening, you choose how you want to perceive it. From that, you have 100% control of. And you're saying your perception is based not on the externals, those are just sensory inputs, illusions created by your own mind. Your perception is based on your thought system, which is based on the same belief system that projected it out. It's now got a set of thoughts and a set of emotions that underlie all the perceptions. Now, if what he's saying is if you project it out and then you perceive it according to the same belief system, it becomes a fixed projection, you see? And you just reinforce the belief system that projected. And you get caught up in this self-perpetuating cycle over and over, project it out, perceive it as real, and that reinforces the belief that projected it out. And so you just continue doing the same thing. And there's no release from that until you change your perception, which is why there's so much emphasis on changing perception, because this is where the rubber meets the road. You can always choose to change your perception of anything that seems to be happening outside of you, because how you view it is up to you.
Okay, love.
You don't have to view it as fearful. You can let that go, and you can find different thoughts and emotions. You can find a happier way of being. So that's what he means by, the fixed projection. What can come between a fixed projection, the aim that I've chosen is the wanted goal. He's saying the aim we've chosen as a projection's wanted goal is that our separate self is confirmed. We think that we are real as a separate individual, and we think that the thoughts and emotions that characterize that separate self are real as well. Fear and various others, anger, attack, thoughts, and so on. And so that is the aim that the fixed projection has, is to reinforce the separate self and all of its dark thoughts and emotions. And the only way out of that is to question the perception and start letting it go. Saying, no, this isn't, what's being shown to me isn't true. It's all an illusion projected out by my own mind. So this is not reality, this is not truth, this is just a setup. It's false. Okay, does that make sense in the context of the diagram? Why he says a fixed projection and the aim that I've chosen is the wanted goal, what that is. Kim? Happy with that?
Just go to that
Okay,
sentence.
so
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me? Let's go to
yes,
that.
yeah.
What can come between a fixed projection? Well, the fixed projection is based on, if it's fixed based on the desire of the belief of separation. And the aim that I have chosen as its wanted goal is in the outcome, right? It says,
Yeah,
what
and
can
the
come
aim
between?
that I've chosen as its wanted goal is that this reinforces my separate self. This actually affirms that I am separate, I'm individual, I really am threatened or victimized or attacked or whatever, and that's my wanted goal. The separate self is strengthened, and the projection is fixed as long as my perception is fixed. If I perceive it from the same belief system that projected it, then it's fixed. Yeah? It's a closed loop system. It just self-reinforces and self-perpetuates. So I have to be willing to look again at it and change my perception, which in turn will change my emotions, change my thoughts, ultimately change my fundamental belief about who I think I am. And at the very core level, it changes my desire or prayer. I now choose to be one self, the true self, the Christ, rather than a separate self. Through this letting go experience, through letting go of my belief in this fixed projection, I'm teaching my mind who I really am. That's the whole power of this. It's not just, you're making your life temporarily better by letting it go. You're actually changing your self-concept, your self-identity, profoundly changing.
Okay.
So number 3 then, Elaine, if you can read number 3. And then forgiving thought does many things. You muted, just so you know.
Yes. An unforgiving thought does many things. In frantic action, it pursues its goal, twisting and overturning what it sees as interfering with its chosen path. Distortion is its purpose and the means by which it accomplishes it as well. It sets about its furious attempts to smash reality without concern for anything that would appear to pose a contradiction to its point of view.
What are you saying there?
Well, if unforgiving thought can be, well, chosen path, with its chosen path. What's it? Sorry, I'm not sure what that means. Chosen path. Interfering with its chosen path.
Well, its chosen path is to smash reality, is to believe in an illusion.
Oh,
so his chosen path is to believe in the ego. It's about fear and attack, and that's it. That's what it wants to believe. And so we get caught up in that. And you do see, some people just like to get upset.
Yeah.
So like they want to get upset, and then something upsets them, and they've chosen that. And they'll kid themselves, and they, oh no, that thing or that person, that event made me upset. But this is a pattern. I get upset all the time. So that's your chosen path. Chosen path is anger.
Yeah.
Because that's what feeds your ego. So that's what he means by chosen path.
Right.
Distortion is its purpose. Means by which it accomplishes it as well. So it's about its furious attempts to smash reality. Not concerned for anything that would appear to pose a contradiction to its point of view. I like the way he says that, to smash reality. Really what you're trying to do with all of this is to smash the pure formless awareness of perfect love that is reality into broken, fragmented bits of perception. And this world is a projection of that smashing of reality, which is why it's a smashed, fragmented reality. And so he's saying, look again, look at this picture, look at what the ego's done. Is this what you really want? Or are you willing to let it go and free your mind from this imprisonment? Self-created prison. You project something out from a false belief, and then you reinforce it by perceiving it as false, perceiving it as true from the same belief. And you have a whole set of thoughts and emotions and a belief system that now seems to be true. It covers over the truth, which lies at the very core of the mind.
Oh yeah, no, I get that. Well, I feel in my case, tend to be bullied. People bully me. Yeah, not that I let them, but I think they see me as a soft touch. So because I've noticed when it comes to anybody, when they ever confront Dave or I, it's always me that they'll bully, not Dave, because they know Dave would just tell them to off. So that's interesting. Yeah.
So that's a pattern. So then there's a feedback loop, and then they do that, and then your ego believes, well, this is true. I am actually
a bit soft,
a victim, and I can be bullied and mistreated, etc. If you allow it, or you can go, no, that's just not true.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what it's showing me. That projection is not a fixed projection. I can change it by reinterpreting it, right? Yeah. That's what he means by fixed projection. If I perceive it as such and my perception cannot change, then it becomes fixed. Oh, well, I'm just a victim. That's what people do to me. Fixed projection, perception. But what the ego doesn't tell you is that perception is the majority of that. The external stimuli, how people treat you, is only half of the equation, probably less than half. Actually, the perception of it, of how you perceive that, is what's most important. How do you perceive it? What are the emotions and the thoughts that you think about it, which then are part of a belief system about yourself? So this is all your self-concept being reflected up through the layers of thought and emotion to underlie the perception that you then think you have, which you believe is reality. It's not reality, it's just your perception of reality.
But despite the sort of behavior of others, you still have to forgive them and you have to wish them well. So I do that, but there's times where you just think, oh, God.
So what does forgiveness entail then? This is where we're getting to the crux of it. What does that actually mean to forgive them?
It's that radical bit that's the more difficult one, where you just know that it's false and it's not actually real. Because
that's all your stuff. You see, it's not got nothing to do with them.
Yes. Yeah.
They are just the trigger. They are put there by your ego to trigger you.
They're my shadow.
It's your own stuff that they are mirroring. Yes. So it's got nothing to do with them. You don't forgive them, per se. This is why the language is important. You let go of your own negative thoughts and emotions that block your awareness of your true self. Those emotions and those thoughts create a belief system that covers over the truth of who you are, which is the true self, the Christ that is happy, free, peaceful, loving, always. They block it out. They cover it over.
It's a tricky one, though, because there's no doubt I am prone to bullies, but I don't allow it to get to me. Of course, I don't. Yeah. Well, sometimes you'll have a moment where it does, but I am prone to these, like that bully situation. But you can't really fight back either, because then you're fighting back with your own ego.
Let go. The key thing is let go of the thoughts and the emotions of being a victim, of feeling like you're unfairly treated. That's the key, because then you're saying, well, I'm not a victim of this. In fact, I can change my thoughts and my emotions about it. If I'm feeling that sense of being a victim, I can look at that and I can remind myself that I'm the Christ. That I'm true self that is beyond all this. I have all peace, all love, all joy within me. And these thoughts and emotions are nothing. They're just a false covering over.
Well, I tend to, when I feel I'm being bullied, what I do is I do speak to the Holy Spirit, and they just come back with either something like maybe send a letter, or you'll approach it when the time is correct. And that tends to help a lot. So I won't be a doormat for sure, but I do find that the higher self is pretty good. It does eventually, once the emotions have worn down, it comes in with the correct action. So work in progress. Yeah.
And that, correct action, right action is what karma yoga is about. So by letting go, this is why in that teaching, Roger Waltz, he's saying, this includes all these elements, because by letting go, you then are inspired to take right action, which is karma yoga.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit is then using you to bring about a true resolution of the problem for everyone.
Yeah, so I tend to wait until my emotions have gone. So like that lady who was shouting at me this morning, I still feel a little bit triggered, because I think that was really, she was a bully. She was an absolute bully. But I'll wait. Not that I mean to attack her. I'm not going to attack her. But the moment will come. But I'll wait until the Holy Spirit or the higher self will enter when the negative emotions have gone. Yeah. So
And then, the next time maybe you respond appropriately. Who knows? But the key thing is let it go in your own mind.
Yes, yeah, because
Let
I
go of the
appreciate the
emotion,
radical
let go
is,
of the thought, even the judgment that she was an absolute bully. Because she's not an absolute bully. She's the Christ. This is what Yeshua's training us to see. She's behaving like a bully in that moment.
in the form.
That's not her true self.
Yeah.
That's her ego that's taken charge. So that's not really who she is. So be careful of your language. She's not absolute bully. She's actually the Christ who's confused. The ego's just taken charge temporarily. So, it's your job as a miracle worker to see that and let go of your own negative thoughts and emotions towards her.
Right.
Because of her apparent behavior.
Right.
And that clears the way for your awareness of the Christ in yourself. So as you see her, you see the Christ in her, you see it in yourself.
Yeah.
You have to. Oh.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. It's so logical and so rational, but it's not easy to do.
No, yes, because the emotions are very
apparently,
deep-seated.
Yeah, apparently this has really happened. She's done that. And she's, shouted at you. And then your emotions and your thoughts that arise in response seem to be quite real. And they cover over the truth of your true being. Okay, so happy with number 3?
Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you.
All right, Kim, if you can read number 4, letting go on the other hand.
Letting go, on the other hand, is still and quietly does nothing. It offends no aspect of reality, nor seeks to twist to appearances I like. It merely observes, waits, and does not judge. But I who do not want to let go must judge, for I must justify my failures to let go. But who I want to let go of my separate self must learn to welcome truth exactly as it is.
Oh, I who want to let go of my separate self. Learn to welcome truth exactly as it is. So what's he saying in this form?
That's the observer being my true self is the one that does not judge. Judging is formulating, or it's the ego's way of separation, specialness.
Yeah, he uses judgment in 2 senses in the course, but in this sense, he means the judgment of the ego. But really judges it as real. That's what the ego wants you to do, to judge it as real, capable of real effects and of really affecting you. And the Holy Spirit's judgment is one judgment. Somebody says, no, none of it is real. That's the Holy Spirit's only judgment.
That's the Holy Spirit, the judgment in this term is really just the interpretation, right?
Well, the judgment of the Holy Spirit is very simple. It just says this is not real. There's only 2 categories of things. There's what's reality and there's what's unreal. And so anything in the dream world is unreal. So whatever's happened, seemingly happened in form, and you got triggered and thoughts and emotions, it's not justified because it's unreal. By judging these things as real and then reacting mental and emotion, you're making them real.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Well, do you have a question?
No,
Kim?
no, I don't. No question.
The Holy Spirit's only judgment is this real or unreal? It doesn't make distinctions among illusions. It doesn't say this illusion is more real than this one. This one's more important, bigger, harder to let go of. It just sees them all as the same. Which is why there's no order of difficulty in miracles, because you can let go of all of them equally, with equal ease if you choose to. Okay. So happy with number 4. So number 5. Elaine, if you can read that. Therefore, I do nothing.
Therefore, I do nothing and allow letting go to show me what to do. Through my guide, my awakener and protector, strong in hope and certain of my ultimate success, I have never been condemned, but only loved by this loving presence. For such is its function, given to it by pure formless awareness of perfect love. Now I must share its function and let go of all condemnation towards perfect love's extension that it has awakened, whose innocence it perceives and whom it honors as the extension of perfect love.
What are you saying there?
Simply by letting go in any instant, and there's no large or small, you'll eventually be shown the way to your guide and your awakener and protector. And as you know, if you stay strong in hope, then there is no doubt success, and well, it'll show us the loving presence. We've never been condemned. So it's basically the function of letting go of all of it, any condemnation. And then its innocence will reveal itself.
Yeah, so condemning your parent victimizers and persecutors. This is the quickest way to awaken. No, this isn't true. What they are demonstrating is untrue. It's a representation of a thought system that is unreal, untrue. So not something I allow in my mind anymore. And so I'm free of it. I make that choice. I'm choosing to free my mind rather than enslave it. Okay?
Yeah.
And that is our only function, to let go of our belief in condemnation and judgment and find the truth, that experientially know the truth that we are pure formless awareness of perfect love. We are beyond all of it, any illusions. Okay, so that's a little intro. He's asking us to read that every day, at least once a day, before you practice the lesson. So try and do that. Not joining a session. If we do a session, we'll do it, but do it on your own. That leads us into lesson 224. So, Kim, if you want to read that, read the headline lesson and the original and alternative, and then paragraph 1, which is a very short paragraph.
God is my Father, and He loves His Son. Perfect love is my source, and it loves its extension.
The thoughts on that? Does it speak to you? Does the alternative speak to you more than the original?
Yeah, I think both do. It's just to say, well, sources, it will love its extension, will love its son, love its, so it loves us, all of us.
Yeah, in the same way. It's the same source that loves everyone the same way. So that's you and everyone. We're all extended in this awareness, in this loving awareness. We are that same loving awareness which extended us. And all that's happened seemingly is a covering over, an illusion of a false identity has covered that over. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you want to read paragraph 1, my true identity is so secure.
My true identity is so secure, my true identity is so secure, so lofty, sinless, glorious, and great, wholly beneficent, and free from guilt, that the state of pure formless awareness looks to it to add to its awareness. It inspires the
Read
world.
the original.
From where?
Yeah, the original up here. The true identity, just so you see that.
My true identity is so secure, so lofty, sinless, glorious, and great, wholly beneficent, and free from guilt, that heaven looks to it to give it light. It lights the world as well. It is the gift my Father gave to me, the one as well I give the world. There is no gift but this that can be either given or received. This is reality, and only this. This is illusion's end. It is the truth.
And an alternative.
My true identity is so secure, so lofty, sinless, glorious, and great, wholly beneficent and free from guilt, that the state of truth, state of pure formless awareness looks to it to add to its awareness. It inspires the world as well. It is the gift my source gave to me, the one that I give to the world as well. There is no gift but this that can either be given or received. This is reality, and only this. This is illusion's end. It is the truth.
Yeah, thoughts on that?
That a true self.
The first one, the state of pure formless awareness looks to it to add to its awareness. We've translated that from heaven looks to it to give it light. Right? And so awareness is light. So it's about the adding to our own awareness. It's like adding us back to its awareness. So this was pure formless awareness, and then the mind's departed and gone into another awareness, and it's now bringing us back to original awareness, which is the light. So I'll leave the rest to you. Just wanted to make that point. which is why we do the translation of looks to it to add to its awareness, looks to it to give it light. As the translation looks to it.
That looks to itself to give it light.
No.
Or its awareness.
No. Looks to the identity. So my true identity, so secure, so lofty, innocent, glorious, and great, holy, beneficent, and free from guilt. The state of pure formless awareness looks to it, my true identity, which is the Christ, looks to it to add to its awareness. So when I identify myself as the Christ, my true self, I add to the state of pure formless awareness because I'm going into that awareness. And so I add my mind back to that original awareness and I merge with it. I become one with it, which is the merging of the Father with the Son. So it looks to it to give it light is the state of pure formless awareness looks to it to add to its awareness.
Yeah.
Okay. And the rest of it?
So it adds to itself, but it's also the gift it gives to me or my true self, which I give to the world. So as I receive, I give. And this is the reality, nothing else. This is the truth. It's not delusion.
This is illusion's end. So it is the truth. Powerful words. So just accepting that. Yeah, I am the source. I am the extension. There's like, yeah, I am the extension of my source. And the source is loving. I'm an extension of this loving awareness. So I must be loving awareness. This is illusion's end. If I identify myself only as loving awareness, this is reality. This is illusion's ends. It is the ultimate truth. Okay. So let's do the prayer. Elaine, if you can read that. So in this in these lessons, you'll notice there's 2 paragraphs. One is always in a prayer form. That's a direct prayer to your source, addressed directly to the source, and then the other one is a more kind of general statement of the truth. And that's the format of the lesson 2 till almost the end of the workbook. 2 paragraphs like this.
So, yeah, my identity, my source is still known to you or me. To me.
No,
right?
to you, because remember what you're addressing here as you're addressing your source. So it's a prayer.
Oh yeah.
You're really addressing your own deepest nature. True self, your source. Okay, so in the prayer, I'm going to address that, and in addressing it, it starts to waken up. It starts to waken. The more you address it, you're like, okay, well, I'm talking to this presence that starts to respond to your address.
Yeah. So my identity, my source is still known to you. I have forgotten it, and I do not know where I am going, who I am, or what it is I do. Remind me, my source, now, for I am weary of the world I perceive. Reveal what you want me to perceive instead.
So what's he saying there? Summary.
We have to say this prayer to our source regularly until we actually start seeing it and seeing that that is our true self, rather than all this petty stuff on the surface.
when you say you don't know, you actually lost.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my identity, my name of Father still is known to you. So translated, my identity, my source is still known to you. My true identity hasn't really been lost because it's still known to my source. But I've forgotten it. Do not know where I'm going, who I am, or what it is I do. So we're lost, confused, lost in a dream world. Remind me, Father. I'm also calling on my source to remind me. Or I'm weary of the world I perceive. And we all know that sense that you just get tired of the illusion. Oh, beam me up, Scotty, get me out of here. We've all had that feeling.
Yeah.
Some people deny it and they go, oh, no, well, that's uncomfortable. So I'll push that away and I'll do something. I'll distract myself. I'll do something else. I'll do something. I'll eat something. I'll smoke something. Anything to distract myself from that uncomfortable feeling. But if you face it, that feeling of disillusionment, weariness in the world, that's the beginning of your awakening, right? You're weary of the world you perceive because it's not real. And it's therefore a very exhausting world to live in. You're living in a state which is unreal. And trying to maintain the illusion of reality gets very tiring. Instead, he's saying, well, call on your source to reveal to you, to go deeper. Okay, so any other thoughts on that one, that lesson?
No, that's a good prayer.
Yeah. And he's using the prayer form in every lesson. So you're actually asking your own mind, your own true self, to reveal itself through these prayers.
Yeah.
Not some outside force. People make the mistake of praying to a God that they think is outside of them. Really, this is a call on your own true mind, your own true awareness to arise in response to the prayer. Okay, so any other thoughts, comments, or questions on that?
No, that's good. Thank you. Well explained.
Kim?
No, nothing from me. Thanks, Jono.
Okay, so we'll do some breath work and then lead into a meditation on this, shall we? So I'll take you through something called power breathing, which is a big inhale breath. You do it in three stages. Breathe into the lower stomach, then into the middle chest, then into the upper chest, and you do what's called locks in yoga. You lock the energy centers so that the energy stays locked in and it doesn't dissipate. So you lock the sphincter muscle, you contract it and pull it up so the pelvic floor lifts. That's called Mula Bandha, I believe it is in yoga. It's the root lock in yoga. After you've done the first breath. So the stomach blows out, make sure the stomach rises. Then you do the root lock. So you just squeeze your sphincter muscle, which is the muscle you use to stop the flow of urine. Or if you've got a few bits, you squeeze the last bits out by squeezing that muscle. It's the same for men and women. So you've got a sphincter muscle, you lock that So it clenches, and that locks the energy in. So it can't flow out, can't dissipate. So it's only really got one way up. The idea of the energy locks is that the energy can only rise, which is the whole point of these practices. You're trying to get the energy. It's called Kundalini in the yogic tradition, which is trapped in most people's cases in the base of their spine. And you're trying to liberate it and get it to rise up the spine. When it rises, you will feel heat in the body, up the back of the spine. And if it's profound, you'll feel it through your whole body. A wave of heat. Initially, it might just be a very subtle little kind of flutter, a little tingle up your spine. But as you do more of it, you start opening the channel for it to arise, then it starts to do that more and more. So you can have a full Kundalini rising experience, takes you into Samadhi. And you want to do it progressively and systematically, not too quickly, because Kundalini rising into the brain can be quite intense and extreme, and you're not ready for it, can cause some damage as well. So just slowly, progressively, you do these practices, and the Kundalini starts to raise up. So then the second phase of the breath is to the middle chest, and then you squeeze the abdominal muscles in and down. So they're called rectus abdominis muscles, just below the rib cage. You squeeze them in and down, so that again locks the energy into your heart center. You can put one hand in your heart just to connect with the energy there. You can feel the energy there. And then third phase of the breath, you inhale into your upper chest. Maximal inhale breath. Lock the energy in, and then up into the crown. So this is what I talked about the Wim Hof breathing. He raises it in 3 phases up into the head, except he suggests you do it lying down. We're doing it seated. So raise it up into the head for the final breath. So it's a maximal inhale breath. And then the final lock is to put the chin forward on the chest, which is called Jalabandha. It's a neck lock. So it stops the energy from flowing out, and you might feel quite a lot of heat and pressure in your head as you hold the breath. It's all part of the process. So I want you to hold the breath. Once you get to the third inhale breath, you've done your 3 phases, which I'll guide you through. Do it in the 3 phases, then hold the breath. And sit in quiet, just with those locks engaged. So the root locks engaged, the stomach muscles are contracted in, and the chin is forward. So the 3 locks are engaged, and you just sit there in a peaceful stillness for as long as you can, ideally 30 seconds. And I'll say, okay, now I'm going to release. So you release all the locks, you let go of any muscle contraction, bring your chin up level, and you exhale out through your mouth, and have a sense of just letting go of that heat, that pressure, and anything else. And then you would do a full exhalation, pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out, and just rest here for as long as you can. Ideally, as long between the inhale and the exhale. So if you held it for 30 seconds, try holding it 30 seconds in the gap between the exhale on the next inhale. You probably won't manage that to start with because you're totally empty, but just see how far you can go. And if you can get to 10 seconds, you're doing quite well. If you find it overwhelming and you have to breathe after a few seconds, then you do that, but go smoothly into the next inhale. So you don't break the form, you go into the next set. I'll take you through 3 sets like this, and the same thing, the triple breath, the locks. So we'll do 3 power breaths. And then I'll just take that into meditation. So we'll practice the lesson with a bit of breath watching, which is very simple. Okay, so how does that sound? Should we do some breath work then? Just do 3 power breaths. So the posture is keep your back straight, feet shoulder width apart. Cup your hands in your lap or have your hands palms facing upwards on your thighs and not touching, whichever is more comfortable. Close your eyes, make sure your back is straight and supported so you're not slouching down. Try and push the shoulders back a bit, straighten the spine so you can raise the energy up. Spine. So breathing in. So clench the sphincter muscle now. Notice how the stomach pushes out. So you clench the sphincter muscle. That's first phase of the breath. And second phase, breathe into your chest. Put one end in your heart center. Feel that energy in your heart center. And squeeze the abdominal muscles side in and down to lock the energy in. And then another sip of air in. So it's a full maximal inhale, breathing into the upper chest and feel that drawing up. It's like an energy drawing up the spine. You might feel tingling up the spine. You're raising the energy up into the head. So it's a maximal inhale breath. The top of the inhale, pause. Now scan your mind. And in this quiet, calm space, and put the chin forward onto the chest. Keep your back straight. Hold the breath in this calm, quiet space. Scan your mind. Notice any thoughts and emotions going on, particularly anything that feels negative or limiting in any way. And remind yourself of the idea. So say to yourself, perfect love is my source, and it loves its extension. Breathe in again, top yourself up with air. Just to top yourself up on that, feel that extension of love in your heart, in your mind. And then just exhale and release. So chin level, release the locks and blow it out with the mouth. So exhale. As you exhale, just feel the release of energy. So there's that energy that raised up into the crown of your head just subsides back down the front channel of your body. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, so expel all the last remaining air out. Let it go. Just rest here. Deep peace and stillness in the gap between breaths. Try and hold the breath for as long as you can. And try and find a sense of peace and stillness. Even though maybe needing to breathe, transcending the limitations of just the physical body here. Breathing in again, smoothly into the next inhale. And the stomach rises. Chest rises. Clench the sphincter muscle to lock the energy in. Squeeze the abdominal muscles in. Third phase of the breath. Breathe into the upper chest, so that's maximally filled, and then hold the breath. Put the chin forward on the chest. Lock the energy in. Keep the root lock engaged, and squeeze your abdominal muscles in and down. Let's hold it for a little bit longer. Remind yourself that perfect love is my source and it loves its extension. And my true identity in this is lofty, sinless, glorious, and great, really beneficent and free from guilt. So that the state of pure formless awareness looks to it to add to its awareness. Probably want to exhale about now. So just release the locks, chin level. Exhale out your mouth and feel all that energy you raised up. And blow it out. The dark smoke leaving you. It's going, gone. All the stomach into the spine. And then one more inhale, breath at the bottom of the exhale. Appreciate that stillness that arose. Now breathe in. Lower stomach. Squeeze the sphincter muscle as you do that. Lock the energy in. And breathe again. Draw it into your heart center. And your heart. Connect to the heart space. And breathe all the way to the crown of your head. It's a maximal inhale breath. Feel this energy rising up the spine. Pause at the top of the inhale. Chin forward on the chest. Try to find a sense of peace even in the desire to breathe, an underlying peace, training your mind to find this in seemingly impossible situations. Very powerful practice. So you want to exhale about now, probably to come up, release the locks, chin level, and exhale. And blow it all out. It's going on. And exhale. And just rest here for a few moments in the deep peace and stillness that come with letting go. So now you're just going to breathe. Second breath technique is just breathing in and out through your nose. Observe the breath flowing into your nostrils and out of your nostrils. Just observe the breath flowing in and flowing out. It's not really you. Focusing all the attention on the breath, subtle area in your nostrils. Just continue to watch your breath. So nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Let the breath take you deeper and deeper as you watch the breath, and deeper into the still, calm, quiet, surrendered state. So just sink inwards with the breath watching. So you observe the breath flowing into the nostrils and out of the nostrils. Focus all the attention on that narrow area in the nose. And you just sink inwards, go deeper, deeper with each breath as you observe the breath flowing in and flowing out. Just observe it, you're the witness. And nothing to do, nowhere to go. Just observe, it's just a technique. It's not really a technique. It's just you. And nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. Nothing else to think about, really. Just breathe, relax, be still. Surrender to the stillness of your true being, the innocence, purity. Listen to these words. My true identity is so secure, so lofty, innocent, glorious, and great. Only beneficent and free from guilt. And just keep watching your breath. My true identity is so secure, so lofty, innocent, glorious, and great. Only beneficent and free from guilt. The state of pure formless awareness. Looks to it to add to its awareness. Inspires the world as well. Is the gift my source gave to me. The one I give the world as well. is the gift my source gave to me, the one I give the world as well. So breathe that in with every breath. Breathe in the source energy, very essence of you. Yeshua says there is no gift but this that can either be given or received. This is reality, capital R, and only this. This is illusion's end. This is illusion's end. It is the truth. The gift my source gave to me, the one I give the world as well. There is no gift but this, can either be given or received. This is reality and only this. This is illusion's end. So now address this prayer to your own true self. You continue breathing, say, my identity, my source is still known to you. So you breathe in source energy. I have forgotten it and do not know where I'm going. Do not know where I'm going, who I am, or what it is I do. So now ask to be reminded. Say, remind me. Remind me of my source. Now, for I'm weary of the world I perceive. Reveal what you want me to perceive instead. And so it is said, and so it is done, and so you just watch and wait. Listen with awareness. Just sink inwards into the depths of what this lesson is pointing to. There's really nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. You just breathe in and out through your nose, you relax, you observe the breath flowing into the nostrils. So just for a couple of minutes of silence, just rest in this deep peace, observe the breath to help you stay anchored in this. If any thoughts come in while you're observing the breath, just let them go by returning your attention to the breath, using it as a powerful meditative practice. And then it just take you into your source and a direct experience of the source of the truth. Sinking inwards, going deeper and deeper with each breath. To the still, calm, quiet, surrendered state. As the lesson says, this is illusion's end. This is reality. And only this is illusion's end. It is the truth. And just sinking deeper and deeper, watch the breath, and let this source, your source reveal itself. So perfect love is my source, and it loves its extension, not sometime in the past or future, but right now, so you can experience that loving awareness right now in the present moment. So just allow that to happen. Let go. Sinking inwards, going deeper and deeper, let the breath take you all the way back to your source. And just rest in peace in this deep stillness of your true self, your true identity for a couple of minutes of deep silence. Just gently coming back. Deep state of awareness into an awareness of body and breath, senses, and via that, the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in again. Another power breath, it's maximum inhale breath. Blow the stomach out, clench the sphincter muscle to lock the energy in. Second phase of the breath, draw it up into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart, if you like. Connect with your heart space. Feel like you're drawing the energy up into your heart. Squeeze the abdominal muscles in and down. Third phase of the breath. Raise this kundalini or life energy up into the crown of your head. Pause at the top of the inhale. Chin locked. Put the chin forward onto the chest, which is the neck lock. Jalabandha, it's called in yoga. And now just in this quiet, calm, still state, just observe any thoughts and emotions in your mind, particularly anything that feels at all negative, negates truth of pure formless awareness, perfect love. You notice that, whatever form it takes, and remind yourself of today's lesson to help you dispel it. It's just an illusion. Remind yourself that perfect love is my source, and it loves its extension. Breathe that source energy in. Top yourself up with the air at the same time. Feel this powerful source, this life energy, fusing every pore and every cell, every muscle of your body. It's powerful, life-giving, life force energy. Do that all in, hold the breath briefly for a little bit longer. Consider that this is your reality, just this perfect love that you are extension of. And how is it possible? How is it possible to be separate from it? How is it possible to feel alone and isolated and separate and fearful and angry and all the emotions the ego sponsors? When perfect love is my source, and my source loves its extension, which is me. I can experience that love, that loving awareness right now. So as you exhale, just release the locks and clenching of the sphincter muscle, locking of the abdominal muscles, the chin up parallel to the ground. Just blow it all out. You blow the air out. Notice how the air flows out. Chest and stomach suck back in. Blowing, gone. And you just rest in peace and silence. For a few moments, count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're feeling with your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in the mouth, smell in your nose. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm and surrendered state. State of mind without illusions, state of mind that is the truth. And just blow it all out. Connect with the state, it's truth that the lesson identifies. This is reality, and only this. This is illusion then. It is the truth. Connect with it, feel into it, anchor it into your awareness. Choose to stay in this loving awareness. Any thoughts come in to disturb it, you can just remind yourself of today's lesson, that perfect love is my source, and love is its extension. And use your breath to help you blow away any dark thoughts. So you're going to anchor the state in for the rest of the evening, carry it with you into bed, into sleep, and on into the week ahead. So it is said and so it is done. So now on the count of 3, just open your eyes, take a minute just to ground yourself back into this world, this reality, so-called reality, using your physical senses. So look around, notice whatever object happens to catch your eye. Very briefly, just observe it. Breathe as you do this. Take a nice deep breath in. Notice that your underlying state hasn't really changed. A sign that it's underlying awareness, fundamental awareness, pure forms awareness of perfect love is. So you can just look around and you notice everything's the same peaceful presence that underlies everything, irrespective of what you're looking at, whether it's an object or a person, whether it's animate or inanimate. It's all the same. Practice non-judging. Don't judge it. So you're going to anchor the state in. You're going to realize that it's always there. It's always available. Whether you've got your eyes closed or open, you can close your eyes and briefly notice the same pieces there. Open your eyes, same experience. Nothing's really changed. You're teaching your mind that nothing has really changed ever, and that this deeper awareness is your true awareness. This is the source. And so you can stay rooted in this awareness, carry it with you, rest of the evening, on into bed, and on to into the rest of the week, to help you, heal you, guide you, always and always. So it is. So that brings us to the end of the breathwork session and the meditation. So any comments on that? Elaine, how did that go?
I still struggle with, I mean, I do the best I can, but after now doing this for almost 2 years, I still struggle to hold it for that long. I
But
can't.
have you been,
I must
you
have counted
practiced it
for
every, you know,
when I
how
do
often do you
these,
practice it?
whenever I do these meditations and follow what you
Mm,
say.
yeah.
And
So
it's like
you
I'm
try and hold.
counting, try and count to make sure I can count to 30. Even now, like I was counting to 30, then it's like I had to take in a breath in and then again or out and then you carried on. It must have been at least a minute and a half. I can't do that. I cannot do that. I've been struggling with this for, I don't know if I just have to get to the basic of the basics, but
No, well,
and then I have to
you do
actually
what you
focus
can.
on just counting with, while you listen to your voice. I'm just like, okay, can I just hold it for like 30? Okay, maybe a little bit more. And then, okay, I have to let it out. And then you're still talking, and then you say another paragraph, and then it's like another thing, and then it's like another minute. It feels like another, this time now must have been at least a minute and a half.
I don't know, because I was in the flow. I was in
I know,
I was in a zone
but it
state
feels like
myself.
that often in these meditations and that I'm like, okay, I just do what I can, and then I don't hold it for long, and then I have to like really like if it even like the breath going out, and then sometimes I'm say hold it for there, and then I have to like quickly breathe in, and then breathe out again.
Okay, so you just do the best you can with it, because it's not the easiest practice in the world, but the benefits are huge. If you can just start to progressively increase it by practicing every day. You could do a more formal practice. So what I'd recommend is you do that triple, the power breathing every day. Just do 10 minutes. It shouldn't take you no longer than 10 minutes, maybe even less, where you do three long, breath holds, and then practice just holding it for as long as you can. Go into the discomfort. So if it feels uncomfortable, try and just hold it a bit into the discomfort. So going just a little bit beyond the comfort zone every time, and that's the way I did it. Just like let go a little bit more, and extend the comfort zone every time by a little bit, a few seconds. Until eventually that comfort zone was expanded to minutes. I mean, I think I had a few advantages because I'd done a lot of breath work before, and I'd been an athlete, and I was still very fit at the time, and I trained myself to breathe through my nose while I was exercising, so it was kind of relatively easy for me. But wherever you are, just persevere with it and do your best. So that's what I'd recommend. Do 3 power breaths in the once a day at least, as part of your meditation. So maybe you lead into the meditation with that, and then you listen to the recording, because it does put you into an altered state. And if you want to do a one-on-one, I can take you through this in more depth. If you really want to crack it, so that's also an option. But it's practice. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it, and you will start to extend. If you do it, 3 power breaths a day diligently, you will start to extend that time that you can do it for.
So 3 power breaths mean 3 rounds, like diaphragmatic in the tummy, heart, and then the head. 3 rounds of that. And
then you hold for 30 seconds to a minute, for as long as you can, with the locks engaged. And you release. You exhale out the mouth. Let that all go, and then practice at the bottom of the exhale. Try holding it for as long as you can. So when you're completely empty, You've pulled the lower stomach into the spine. You expel the last air out. So you're completely empty. See how long you can hold it there for.
Yeah.
And initially it might be a few seconds because it's very uncomfortable. But see if you can extend it. Ideally, you want to hold it for as long between the inhale and the exhale as between the exhale and the inhale. That's according to Dan Brulé, and he's a world-renowned breathwork teacher. When I did a private session, he said, "No, you definitely want it." I was like, "Okay, I can see the value of that." So, and then you practice the breath hold on the out breath as well, and then smoothly into the next inhale. So the idea is hold it until it's like, okay, I can't hold it anymore, and then still be able to go smoothly into the next inhale, maintain the form. So you don't go, okay, now I have to do 2 quick breaths. To try and do it. So hold it to the point where it's uncomfortable, but you can still, okay, I could still follow the form and take a nice deep breath in.
That's the other challenge. Yes.
But it's a practice, isn't it? There's a structure to it, and there's a discipline, and you're disciplining all kinds of things. You're disciplining your mind. You're facing. It's almost, spiritually speaking, I think one of the reasons it's so effective is because you're creating difficulty for yourself, but consciously, and then going into that and saying, okay, well, I'll make my life difficult with this practice consciously, and learn to deal with it. So I'm creating like a mini kind of crisis, which I then have to, I have to face. And this makes you more resilient in life, there's no doubt. It makes you more robust, resilient. If you've always just pampered yourself, say, I just want the comforts of life, and then something difficult happens, you're going to not be as prepared to deal with it. This makes you more robust, more resilient, no doubt. Which is, there's a huge benefit of it, as well as all the physiological benefits. It boosts your immune system. It's, I mentioned the whole theory. I can't confirm like that's actually been confirmed by science, but that's the yogic theory that when you lower your blood oxygen levels, it stimulates the growth of stem cells, and they actually start to be transported in a low oxygen environment because they're used to that. They can actually be transported by the bloodstream around the body. So you're actually doing stem cell therapy when you do extended breath holding, which is quite profound. And then that's the cutting edge of now health and wellness and medical research. A lot of it's going into stem cell therapy, because these stem cells can become anything. They have the power to regenerate any organ, any cell, because they're like the original cell, kind of going back to source. So this is the source of the fountain of eternal youth. Call it the elixir of youth, fountain of eternal youth, the philosopher's stone. They had all these terms for something, and really it was the access to this inner kingdom, where these powerful energies can come in and really help you. And these kinds of practices, like the breath work, unlock. They're the keys to the kingdom, because they unlock the benefits that you won't receive unless you do the practice. You can't just think it. You actually have to practice it and do it. Wow. So practice, just make it a daily practice. It's good you're doing the breath breaks and meditations, but if you really want to crack it, do 3 power breaths a day, and make that your practice, and say, okay, I'll do a month of that. Every day. It might take you 10 minutes as part of your meditation. You lead into the meditation of that. And then once you've done the 3 power breaths, like I did today, then you go into, okay, now I'll consider the lesson.
Yeah.
And you can then listen to the breath break and do do another one, because I always start off each lesson as, there's always a power breath to kick it off, isn't it? Let it go. So you're doing one in every breath break or every meditation, but you can up that and do 3 to start with, and then go into the meditation or the breath break. And see how you go after 30 days. If you do it diligently, I'd be very surprised if you don't extend your time to a minute or more. But you don't. Most people can do a minute. It's a bit of training, reasonably comfortably. And then spiritually as well, you've cracked something difficult. It's difficult for you, so you go into the difficulty and you make it easy through your practice. That's very empowering. It's a very empowering thing to do.
Yeah.
That's what I recommend.
Yeah.
And if you want to do a special
totally.
one-on-one, then we can arrange that. We can take you through it.
Okay. No, but I think it's a good idea, or it's a good to start with at least the 3.
Yeah. And you've got the form of it. The locks and if you've done yoga, then it's the same locks as yoga. The root lock. I think the second one is called Uddiyana Bandha, and then Chala Bandha. So those are the 3 yogic root locks, which lock the energy in, and you feel some rising of the energy. That's the idea. As you start raising it up and locking it in, so it can't escape. And that's the way they stimulate a Kundalini rising. It's like every time you do this, you raising the energy up from the trapped part. It's in your nether regions, your groin. It's trapped there for most people, and you're starting to liberate it and raise it up. And they they know that once you get to full awakening, the Kundalini rises. When Kundalini rises into the crown, and there's this free flow of energy, that's a samadhi experience. You go into samadhi. So you're preparing, for that samadhi experience, which will happen when the Kundalini rises, and that process might take years. It's a slow, steady process, but rather that sudden Kundalini awakening can be very difficult and even dangerous. So I think you're just preparing yourself slowly, systematically every time you do this to raise the Kundalini up. When you do that, it's blissful. You might find the end of the breath holding session that you're just very relaxed and blissful. It stimulates production of endorphins and dopamine and serotonin and stuff. So you often feel very very peaceful, very calm, relaxed after doing quite an intense breathwork session. It's a bit like the after effect of strong exercise. It's the same sort of effect. That kind of nice kind of relaxed feeling when the endorphins are flowing. So it does, although it's quite difficult to initially, it does get easier. So it actually can become very pleasurable.
So just a question, when you're breathing out, you don't go back into the locks, right? It's only when you're holding the breath in. Yeah.
The locks are on the release. You exhale and you release the locks because you don't want to be holding in and letting go at the same time. It's like the exhale is the letting go phase. So you let go of all that and just do a full, letting go exhalation of all the muscle tension released. And so the idea is that the energy raised up into the crown of the head, as you exhale, it starts to go down the front channel. So you're actually cycling the energy up the back channel and down the front channel. You've got these 2 major channels in your energy system. And so it's like you're moving the energy through your system, which is what the flow is about. Moving, if you start doing that, you get into flow because the energy's flow. It's not stuck in your body. And so your mind and your life follow suit. And again, it's that this energy, it's the source of what we call life in this world. It's fundamental life energy. So it's very healing, rejuvenating. Start moving it around your body. It goes into areas that are needed. And then it does, repair work and stuff. And this is all part of the, stem cells. It's all connected. The stem cells, that's one thought system. The energetic side of it is another, but they actually they tie in and marry up. And it works. I mean, that's all you need to worry about. The yogis were less interested in how it works, the science of it, than in the actual practical effects. I'm like, well, let's just practice it and get the benefits. And who cares how it works? Really, it does work. But driving a car, most people don't really understand how it works. Maybe conceptually, sort of, but you just get in your car and you drive, and it works, and that's all that matters. So in the same way, so you just practice and it works, and you start knowing experientially that it works. You don't need science to prove it. You just feel the benefits directly. Yeah, so practice it. I advise every day, just to do it for 10 minutes. Maybe it'll be short as 5 minutes to start with. You can't hold your breath for very long. It'll be shorter. Might be a minute, minute to a minute and a half each breath. As you extend it, you can start going to 10 minutes or longer. And then you could do the alternate nostril. We have not time to do that now, but you can do the same thing with alternate nostril. So you breathe in, left, and you exhale out the right. So you block the left nostril, hold it for 30 seconds, switch. Then you block the left nostril out through the right. And then the next inhale would be in through the right. You block the left, and then out through the left. So in left, out right, in left, out left. And that's one set. So you do another 3 like that. And then the whole session might take you 15 or 20 minutes. But I'll show, if you want to, I'll show you that in a one-on-one. So alternate nostril. It's the same thing. It's a power breath, but using alternate nostril. And that seems to balance it balances the brain hemispheres. So you start becoming more whole brain.
Yeah.
Left brain, that's the idea. Again, I don't know how much research been done on that, but it does seem to have a sort of definitely a calming, integrating effect. Which ultimately is, it's your own experience of it. Well, so powerful stuff. Very powerful. I just took it, that breath holding would be the precursor to Kriya. So I'd say before I taught anyone Kriya, I'd say, go do that. Do that for a few weeks and get comfortable with, holding your breath for a minute. And then we can look at the Kriya, because the Kriya is taking it to another level again. So you're going to hold your breath for as long as you can. There's no set time, but you do 3 Kriya breaths. So hold it for as long as you can. And then you you release, and there's a form to it. So this is all ancient, yogic spiritual practice you're practicing, which has time-honored benefits. Any other questions, Kim? Or Elaine, any questions on it?
A bit like Kim, occasionally struggling with the breath, holding it for the length of time that you were prescribing there.
Well, sorry, I wasn't prescribing it. I just went into kind of a zone. I wasn't timing myself, which is probably why it felt inordinately long, because it was probably longer than 30 seconds. But I just kind of went into a meditative state while I'm speaking it. So
rather than me doing it sort of forcefully, I just sort of went into a more gentle lock at the belly, and then holding the muscles at the side there, and then the chest, and then the crown, and then locking my there. I did the second time around, I thought, do it gently rather than because then that was just too powerful.
Yeah, so ultimately what you want to try and do is flow with it. So you do the 3 stages, just like as beginners, like, okay, just to get you into the, like, yes, it's a maximal inhale breath. You can engage, all the parts of your lungs. So the belly is the lower diaphragm, and you're filling up middle chest, upper chest. But as you practice more of it, it starts to become one smooth, it's like smooth breath. And then you do the locks. So as you're doing the breath, raises up, you'll do the locks together, and you just sit. And you should, once you get good at it, it's quite comfortable to sit for a minute or even a minute and a half.
So it's doing it gently rather than doing that one big breath in the abdomen, the diaphragm. That's where I was going, because then I hardly had enough breath to get to the chest, and then let alone the crown, and then into the lock of the chin. I had not an ounce of air left. So the next time I did it a little bit more.
You'd fold up on the first.
I did too much power into the diaphragm, putting too much air in there. That I had very little left to do the other. So I did the next time. I thought, right, leave a little bit left for the chest. Yeah. So it was a bit better the second time.
Yeah.
So
so it's maybe like a 1/3, a third to a half initially in the lower stomach, and then you top it up, and then final one, and you can sort of feel a raising up, right? The energy is moving up as you do that,
rather
and
than
then
being
into the crown of your head, at the top of it. So it's like you end up with the energy in your head, which is facilitating the Kundalini rising experience. And make sure you keep your back straight. I did say that, but perhaps didn't emphasize it. The back straight.
Maybe a bit slouched a bit, actually,
Because if you slouch, it stops that rising. So that's why they do the they do the lotus position. You ever wondered why they do lotus in yoga?
Your back straight,
Because it keeps your back straight.
Yeah.
So you do the half or the full lotus, keeps your back straight, and then you're able to get that full effect of the energy rising. But you can if you struggle with that, you can sit with your back against a wall or something to keep the back straight, and you can support it.
So I was probably a little bit too slumped. I was slightly
press against the wall, pull the shoulders back slightly. Because if you slouch forward, then the spine automatically starts curving. So you pull your shoulders back, chin, well, when you lock here, but to start with upright, shoulders back, so that spine is straight. So that you're creating an open channel, straight channel for the energy to move up. And then if you practice this upright, you can actually do it supine as well. So the supine meditation is quite interesting. That's the Wim Hof. He says lie down, because it's in some ways easier. The lying down, the spine is already straight. So you're getting the same effect lying down, and it just reduces some of the effort and the stress of the posture. The danger is lying down, you can fall asleep, but I've always been pretty like, some meditation practices and teachers are like, no, 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 you can't fall asleep. I'm like, well, if you need to, then that's what you need to do. If you're tired, then go with it. I remember the Vipassana. No, 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 you can't, absolutely can't lie down. Just like you can't fall asleep. And so it was very like, I remember like you'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Sorry, they'd have a 4 in the morning bell, and then you do your meditation, kind of like falling asleep, and it's like a bit like torture, because you can't actually go to sleep, and you're just like sitting there, and they're forcing you. So I mean, I did it because it was like, okay, well, I'll do it their way. Then at the end, I was like, oh, actually, like when I lay down and I just let go of all of that practice and discipline, it was so profound. It's this amazingly, profound experience, just going into pure formless awareness, perfect love, which is where the name came from. So there is a point, to the practice, and then there's also a point to letting go of the practice and going beyond it.
Of course.
And it's kind of that dynamic of, if you're practicing, it's knowing, starting to feel into it for yourself, of like, okay, the practice is serving me to a point, and then maybe I let go. So maybe I do some, disciplined upright breathing, and then maybe there's a point where you lie down, you do some savasana, you just breathe while you're lying down, and you just lie down to finish it. But there's a point to that, because that's a total, it's a dynamic between the meditation is it got these the two primary elements, the yin and the yang. The one is active. That's the yang energy, active, focused, disciplined. It's the practice, you breathe, this is kind of yang practice, when you're focusing and you blocking and, all this stuff. Then there's also the yin element, which is a surrender, which comes in when you breathe out, you let go, you surrender, and you could just hang out in this surrendered state for a while between the breaths. And the same in the inhale, when you go into that inhalation, you hold. That's now a kind of surrendered state, isn't it? You're not doing anything, just quiet.
Yeah.
You're in the gap between breaths, and quiet in your mind. You can just hang out there and be still. So both of these elements are in any good meditation or breathwork practice.
Right.
And then you can play with it yourself. Like I took the Vipassana. Once I'd done it, I did it properly for 10 days, and then I tried it a little bit afterwards, do their way, and it was like, actually, I think this is going to be more powerful lying down, because trying to get an energy flow going, saying it's all about the flow of the energy in the body. Okay, so you want full flow of energy. I'm like, well, why, if you want full flow of energy, would you sit in such an uncomfortable position, in like a cross-legged locked position, if you want the energy to flow through the whole body? It seemed counterintuitive. Do you see?
Yeah.
It's like they're all kind of, their position is locked up, and yet they want a free flow of energy. So I was like, okay, well, let's try it. If you lie down in the savasana position, just on your back, palms facing upwards, hands by your side, and you do the breathing there. And I found it was the energy flow was more profound. I was getting my whole body, energy moving through it and vibrating. It was like, okay, this is powerful. And then sometimes I fall asleep. If I needed sleep, then I'd like off we go, into a kind of. But then I'm like, well, obviously that's what you need. So then why not? It's not a crime. Just they were like, oh, it's the worst thing in the world to sleep. No, it's not. That's what you need. Well, then that's what you need. Give yourself what you need, and then maybe after half an hour, I'd come out of it, and then I'd be like, okay, well, now I'll do a meditation, and I'd be more conscious in the half hour, and I'd do the Vipassana meditation lying down. So that kind of works for me. So I'm like, well, I'm not being rigid about it. Just use what works for you. I've always experimented, and the rigid form of it. And they say, no, you must do it this way. It has to be an hour in the morning, hour in the evening. It's very rigid. And I think when traditions become too rigid, then they start losing the plot of it, because the whole point is to not be rigid, to be fluid and flexible and flowing. And the practice shouldn't become another false idol, which I did observe that it became for them. It seemed like the practice had become the god. It was like, the practice is more important than anything else, which is not correct. The practice is just a means to facilitate, your awakening to the truth of who you really are. I even asked the teacher, I asked her that question. I said, so is there a danger that the practice could become another block, another fetter, they call it? Oh, no danger of that. Very quickly, answer. I was like, a bit too quick.
Right. The ego's jumping in. Yeah.
Well, very, very quick. There was no pausing. It was like, oh, no danger of that. I'm like, oh, really? So you're telling me you're doing, she was doing like 4 or 5 hours a day, up to 6 hours a day of this practice. And then, these 10-day retreats. And she's, oh, well, that's just kid stuff. We do 20 days, we do 60 days. It's like, okay. And so where's that actually getting you? Are you actually awakening through that? Or is it just about, oh, well, now, we're so hardcore Vipassana, gurus and practitioners that we can do 60 days. You see what I mean? It becomes its own obstacle. And interestingly, the Buddha, well, yeah, and it was, oh, no, she said, she was very quick to point out that Vipassana was the hardest meditation practice in the world. Like that's some kind of, a badge of honor or something. Oh, no, Vipassana is the hardest in the world. Okay, well, I don't know why you had to say that. And who's to say? It's all experiential. It might be, others that are, some might find harder, like, breath holding. The breath holding is actually harder, I can tell you that. As you go through more immediate stress through breath hold. So not necessary, but it's like the ascetic people get into this kind of ascetic, oh no, the tougher it is, the better type thing. No pain, no gain. Gary Player, it's like, right. So you got to suffer. I really did get that feeling. No, you got to suffer to awaken. It's got to be hard. And interestingly, because it's based on the Buddha's teaching, he actually taught against it. He said, no, it's not. Because he did that for 7 years and just like killed himself with all his ascetic practices. And then he realized when he went into samadhi and attained his enlightenment, that this was not helpful. But actually it was a middle way. We needed to find a middle way. It was not extreme. It wasn't extreme asceticism, neither was it extreme pleasure seeking. It was somewhere in between. That's why I called it the middle way. So even though they're basing it on his teachings, then what happens is people start losing the middle way because they start getting too attached to the one way practice and the asceticism of no, now we need to sit for hours in this uncomfortable meditation posture and suffer. So, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we've got to physically suffer, and that's good. I'm going, really? Do you really have to suffer that much? I'm not sure. I think, that maybe it could just be quite a peaceful, nice experience. I'm lying down and the energy is flowing through me, which she said that's the whole point. You want to get the energy to flow. Well, why wouldn't you then lie down? Because that's going to be a better posture. And Savasana is a recognized meditation posture. It's one of the primary meditation postures. So, I guess once you have enough knowledge, because I've studied some of this stuff myself and I've done various practices, start to become a bit more like, well, that's what they say, but let me let me just experiment. Let me go out of the rigid form and, find something that works for me. And I introduced breath holding as well. So go, okay, so I'll do a body scan. I'm lying down, and I'll do that for maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then I'll do a long breath hold. And then I'll hold the breath for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And hold, just do like a Wim Hof power breath, but lying down. And all this energy is vibrating through my body while I'm doing it. It's powerful stuff. You can feel the energy moving. And then I'll practice, because they're like, well, you just got to blank your mind and not think of anything. Then I might practice the course. I'm going, well, there's no harm in bringing in a course idea, a course lesson. I'll do the first 7 lessons of the course in that state, and then remind myself of the principles of forgiveness. It's powerful stuff. Combining them. I thought, when I talked especially to the teacher, I don't know if every Vipassana person's like that, but she didn't get it. She had done all this practice, and she didn't have the awareness of source. She said, "Oh, there's only illusion." See, the teaching is all about anicca, so everything's anicca, illusion, it's temporary. And I said, "So what's your understanding?" No, everything. There's nothing that is not impermanent. She said. I'm going, really? What? So you don't believe there's a permanent presence or self beyond that we call God, that's eternal? I mean, this is the teaching of all the mystics and the saints and the avatars. There is a permanent awareness. And then again, she's quite quick to go, oh, no, but I know who I am. I'm like, really? It doesn't seem like it after all that practice. So I think, it's a good practice, but if she was very one-dimensional in her practice, just that. I think, studying like something like A Course in Miracles could have really benefited. So okay, we need a bit of mind training and understanding to come into the experience, so that she could then interpret her experience, in another way, and start saying, well, actually, there is a true awareness, which I'm actually tapping into, but I just didn't know it. There is some permanent awareness that Vipassana is revealing. That's why it works. But without understanding the metaphysics, it could just, she was swallowing it's all illusion. But that's, the Buddha was teaching that the form is all illusion. The world is illusion. He was actually pointing us to the eternal nature that we truly have, which is called nirvana. You go into nirvana and you just are in the state of pure formless awareness.
Yeah, the deathless, as they say.
Yeah, deathless, immortal. He didn't really talk about the self, but he talked about the state. Yeah. So it's like just this state of nirvana that this meditation practice will lead you into, but don't be extreme about it. The middle way, he said, is best, because the extreme asceticism, he did it for 7 years. It just about killed him, and he realized it's not the way. It's not going to work. And there were other, ascetics like him at the time doing it. And he said, yeah, everyone's doing it, and they're kidding themselves that it's working, but it's not. It's not actually taking them into enlightenment. And it was when he let go of that, he finally gave up on the discipline, and he sat under that bo tree, and he just gave up. And he just went,
surrender.
Hey, enough. I'm just enough. I've had enough. It's I'm done with it.
Too much. Yeah.
Then he attained it, and it was like, okay, you just let go of all that striving. It's like striving for enlightenment. That becomes its own obstacle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And he just let that all go, and then it was like, oh, actually, there it is. It was there all along, but I was so busy striving for it that I couldn't find it. And out of that came his insights about the second noble truth, desire. Okay, well, desire, craving, even for enlightenment, is the source of suffering. Don't crave enlightenment, because you make yourself suffer. Because then you're saying, I don't have it. If I crave it, I'm saying I don't have it. And if you keep craving it, you never have it, you see. He saw how that worked, how that mechanism of desire worked to create suffering, which was one of the most profound insights, spiritual insights that anyone's had, which then became the foundation of Buddhism, and so that's become known to mindfulness, and these principles are integrated into the spiritual teaching and spiritual practices. Yeah, so it's fascinating stuff. Really. You start understanding it, how it's all interlinked. Then you start seeing it holistically, I think, and that's very helpful. Like you see the whole picture, and you get out of that. So many people who go into one practice, they become very one-dimensional. It's like, no, this is the only way.
Like a religion, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just another bond. Your religion. It's like, so Vipassana is her religion, and it becomes another fetter on her mind that blocks her full awakening, because it's about seeing the whole picture. But it's all leading to the same place. Whichever way you go up the mountain, it goes to the same peak. Whether you take the Vipassana route or you take Course in Miracles. And that was interesting, because I got blocked. I still am blocked from ever teaching for the network, the ACIM network, the UK, which was like, because they said, no, you're not pure enough because you're doing Vipassana. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, how can you, if you really understand what the Course is saying? He says this is a universal experience, right? Universal theology isn't possible, but a universal experience is not only possible but necessary. And he says there's many ways, all of the paths lead to God. He says all this. How can you then be so dogmatic and narrow-minded that you say, no, you can't go and practice Vipassana and do this, spiritual practice for you, because I wanted to see what it was about, to see how it might help me. That doesn't mean I'm not a course teacher anymore. In fact, it took my understanding and practice and teaching of the Course to another level, having done that. Because I had this profound mystic experience I actually experienced what the Course is talking about, pure formless awareness of perfect love. And I experienced the Christ before that. It was like this orb, this hand in meditation, this hand just came out of nowhere and stuck this big golden orb into my heart chakra. It was like that was preceding my pure formless awareness experience, like by a couple of hours. So it was like, whoa, okay, that's a pretty profound spiritual experience, but that's just a warm-up to the pure formless awareness, the revelatory experience that I was going to have. It was preparing me for it. It was almost like that was Christ. That was a vision. So when he says that's a vision, that was a vision. So the vision of Christ, which prepared me for the direct experience, the revelatory experience of God himself. Now, how can anyone say that I shouldn't have done what I did when I had those two experiences? It's like, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Which made me understand when I had that second one, it was like everything just downloaded. I just got the Course in like a few minutes. I was like, oh my God, I get it. After that experience, it was like massive download. I was like, I get it. I understand now what they mean by the veil of illusion. That everything that I've created in this world is just there as a justification for all this crap. Sorry, but that was the word that came into my mind. All this crap that you're thinking and feeling. The world is just a justification for those crap thoughts and emotions, which cover over. The only purpose is to cover over the truth. That's all they're there for. And I just got it, and like you can't explain. It's just like, boom, it dropped in suddenly. I was like, amazing. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
No, I'm pleased that you're sharing that.
Then I understood what the Course was really all about in that moment. It was like, okay, I get it. Finally, it They're all just downloads. And I get
That's good.
exactly what Yeshua is saying. It's so simple.
Well,
But
I'm
I
glad
would not
you're
have
sharing
had that.
that. You know, I'm glad you're sharing that, because, like you say, it means that we are all able to feel that in our own way, though it may not be Vipassana or, but
your experience will be different to mine, because like we all have our own unique way of awakening. But you find your way, and it's not, if you listen, the Holy Spirit will guide you. It told me to go on the Vipassana retreats. Like, okay, this is going to be good for you. You need to go, and this is the time, because it knew after that I started teaching pretty much full time. I couldn't take 10 days off. It was like that was a window that I could do it.
Was your calling, yeah.
And so you listen, and then people who are dogmatic go, oh no, you shouldn't have done that because you're not pure enough. It's like they have no cooking clue. They have no idea.
That's
and how dare you judge? How can you say that someone should or shouldn't do anything? Well, they go, well, no, because we're just course. But that's so limiting. That's just like, hang on, but they're not just course. You're actually denying the very course that you say you believe in. Yeah. Because the course is saying there's many paths and there's many ways. And this truth is in everything. It's everywhere. And so you'll find that if you do an authentic spiritual practice like Vipassana, the truth is there too. And in fact, the Buddha's teaching and the Course in Miracles are very similar. There's not much difference when you really boil it down. I mean, I was glad I did that as well, because then there was some teaching on some of the theory, the Buddhist teachings. I was like, there's really not much difference. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. The Buddha's calling it non-attachment. You're gonna go into non-attachment.
Loving kindness.
Loving kindness. And in the Course, they say, well, it's forgiveness, and love. And this is the same. It's exactly the same. It's just a slightly different language, terminology. The Buddhist way of letting go is more, okay, I'm just going to observe and just detach from whatever my emotions and my sensations are in the body. But you are letting it go, aren't you? You're not attaching to anything. In the Course, it's more maybe of an active letting go of saying, okay, I'm aware of it. I'm going to release it and let it go with my mind. But then I think what I've seen is people who just do the Course and they just do it cerebrally, intellectually. They don't really get it. They don't fully get it, because how can you? No, how can you unless you experience it? In the end, what he's pointing us to is a mystic experience. But it's like it goes beyond just the intellect and, okay, yes, I understand the moving parts of the Course. I mean, take a Robert Perry, for example. Yeah, understands the Course intellectually, no doubt, very well. But experientially, really, do you really get it? One wonders. Well, given some of the stuff he said, I doubt that's the case, because you wouldn't be saying those things if you really got it. And so that's mystic experience. And he said, oh well, I don't have any of these abilities, because he's probably not practicing these things. He's not practicing maybe some meditation, probably, but not necessarily on this level of the breath work and raising the kundalini. Anyway, I won't go too much into that, because
he's got a place. Some of his stuff that he writes is interesting. I do like some of his commentaries. I quite like those.
So but again, it comes down in the end to your experience. You're like, yes, you can read the stuff till the cows come.
It's more inspirational. It's where you need the experience.
But what you want, all of this is leading you to the profound mystic experience of truth. That's where Yesh is pointing us to. He's saying this is all just preparation, for the revelation, for the revelatory experience that you are one with God. And this is your true nature and reality. You can only really know that experientially. Someone tells you that, okay, well, but you're not really feeling it.
Yeah.
When you have an experience like I had, you know it in that moment. You know that it's true. Experientially, that's knowledge. It goes beyond perception to knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Robert Perry, I mean, he's not in the same level as Moji and what's the Adi Shanti. He's not on the same level as them, but I do like some of what Robert writes. Yeah, I do like what he writes, but yeah, he's not on the same level.
It's intellectual. There's an intellectual understanding.
Yes.
You know,
but not
so the theory, the theology, but the experiential knowing, like, yeah, I really get this. I live it. I walk it. I breathe it.
Yeah, I can see that in Moji and Adi Shanti yourself. I don't know about Eckhart Tolle. Again, I like him. I like what he says, but I'm not sure. He does look as though he's certainly coming from not just the ego when he's talking on stage.
No. I mean, he's mostly in the spirit,
yeah.
But there's still too much dualistic thinking.
Yeah.
There's still too much duality comes into it. So things like, 90% of the time, you whatever you're worrying about isn't true. Well, the truth is it's 100%. 100% of the time, but there's no 90%. It's all or nothing deals. Like your worry is never justified because it's all illusion. So he points to that, but doesn't necessarily make that explicit. And he's taught some of the course. He refers to it sometimes, reads from it. But the really like hardcore non-dual, like, okay, it's the truth and nothing but the truth, and that's it. There's not many people who teach that because it tends to frighten people away.
And some of the ladies, like, Byron Katie, she's quite sort of in there as well, isn't she? Not on the same level as Moji.
I think she's had experiences.
Yes.
But she's also, like she said, I've heard her say some stuff like, oh, well, the ego has its place, and he goes, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Very dodgy ground there. You just start to say that stuff. Does Yeshua ever say the ego's okay? No. He never says the ego's okay. It's fine. You can just have the ego there. He's saying, no, this is an insane, vicious monster. Something you got to get rid of.
What about the ladies? I mean, obviously, what ladies are up there that you feel are non-dualistic? Mother Teresa?
I don't know enough about her, really. I think
Florence.
I think she had she followed the bhakti yoga path. So it was the path of devotion. Whether she understood that it was all an illusion, I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, probably, maybe not. But there was a loving kindness and awareness that it was, obviously something extraordinary, which is why she made an impact on the world. But was she fully awakened?
Not sure.
Who knows? Who knows? The level Yeshua's talking about is ultimate. This is like there is no higher. He's pointing us to the ultimate state of perfect enlightenment. He's saying, if you practice my course, because I've done it, you can do it too. I was nothing special. I just followed these teachings. I practiced them without exception. So he's saying, well, you can do it too. Anyone can do it.
Including it seems to be more the gentlemen up there. More gentlemen are up there. Where's the ladies that are?
Well, I think, it's interesting. Part of it's cultural. In just women had
anonymous, maybe. Yeah.
Women had their place in society, and they were actually stopped for many centuries. They weren't really allowed.
They were witches. Yeah, they were witches.
Yeah, and even in places like India, it was like, no, the spiritual stuff's for men. You just kind of have your place in whatever as something lower than the men. even though they're teaching enlightenment. It's interesting. So there's all these internal contradictions in some of these cultures. So I think a lot of it's cultural, that goes back to these cultures that didn't really encourage women to do it, and women were was frowned upon, and they would get into trouble with the men if they did it.
Classed as mad, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's be a big reason. But I also think men have an ability to focus. We wired up slightly differently. We have an ability to focus on a single thing, be very single-minded. Women tend to be more like multitask. Okay, I can do this and I can do
that. They're nurturers.
Because they have to. Well, because you wired up for childhood.
Yes, yeah, they're nurturing.
You can't have a child and be single-mindedly focused on your work and forget about your child. It's not good for evolutionary.
The caring and nurturing it a lot. Yeah.
So it's more like
you need to be multitasking.
I think, and so there are differences. Now, it's not to say women can't do it, but it seems to be more like men kind of, if you start focusing your mind that way, it's a one track. It's like, okay, I'm going for this. Like, I look at what the Buddha did, just looking at the history of some of these great teachers, he just abandoned ship. He went, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm walking out of my cushy life. And he had an arranged marriage and he had a son, and he just said, I can't do this anymore. Walking out, and I'm going for one thing, which is enlightenment. Now, for a woman to do that in those times would have been so difficult, next to impossible.
Would have been burnt to the stake.
Well, quite possibly. Like, who knows what would happen? But it just wasn't kosher. It wasn't allowed, and she had a child. So as a mother, to abandon the child would have been like, well, who's going to take care of the child then?
Of course.
The father goes, and it's like, well, the mother's still there, and he's got servants, and so actually the child's probably going to be okay. He just won't have a father. I think subsequent, once the Buddha attained his enlightenment, he sort of had some reconciliation with his family, and they sort of became his disciples. And because in India, that's what you do. It was part of the culture. Okay, he's now enlightened, and so we worship, we give him.
So there's going to be plenty of women who are being enlightened, but they don't tend to become leaders or teachers as much as the chaps there.
Maybe,
Kim, what's his name? Eckhart Tolle's wife. She's a good teacher. Kim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's changing. It doesn't have to be that way. There's no reason why women can't do it. It's just historically.
I'm sure they can be as enlightened as a gentleman, but doesn't seem as many lady teachers out there.
Yeah, it's interesting because more women are actually interested in this stuff.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
In this community, most are women. It's me and John are men.
Yes. Yeah, it was when I go to yoga. It's mainly women. When I ever go to yoga, it's mainly women. So it's interesting. Which of course the teacher is a lady. So so maybe There's no
reason. But I think what men do well is they focus, and they're very they can be very direct.
So where's
I remember going to Findhorn, and I was like just doing my thing, and it was quite like direct, clear, focused, and it wasn't taken well.
Bouncing around, whereas us women tend to.
It was more like, oh well, let's flow with things and let's feel the room, and I'm like, okay, to a point, we did some of that, like people share, but at the same time, I've come to deliver a message, so let me give my message. If I don't have a chance to do that, then what's the point? If it's all just, we're just feeling into it, and people come away, it was very touchy-feely, and it's like, hang on, was there actually a talk given? Did I learn anything? But there was a clear difference, you know what I mean? I saw this, like male energy versus a female energy, what they wanted to do in Findhorn And like how I was like, okay, well, I've come to deliver a talk. At least, let me do a half an hour talk. It's not unreasonable. And, deliver a clear message, and hopefully people will be interested.
Yeah.
So a different,
Interesting.
focus and energy.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Hey,
It's
yeah,
I
well,
appreciate it.
every teacher's got a different style.
Of course,
They
yes. And there'll
different
be as many
personalities,
women getting a
styles.
life. Yes, of course.
Well, there should be, because more women do the stuff they do. They're generally more interested in spirituality, spiritual practices, and so on. So
Yeah.
they should be. But historically, men of the great teachers are all that you think of historically are all men.
Well, I can never say his name. Ramana
Maharshi, yeah.
Yes.
All the
Buddha.
line of sages, many gurus, and they're all men.
Yeah.
And that's,
Interesting. As you say,
I
must
don't
be
know,
the fact that
historical and focus. Like, I think the child thing is a big thing. Women tend to then have children, and just
it's just the way they're wired.
How do you be single-minded and focused with a child?
Yeah.
So very difficult, because
child
has needs, and you might have a number of children, and child has needs, and you've got to cater to them. Whereas the man will go, okay, I'm in fact, in India, they have the sannyasins. And they say, okay, at a certain time in your life, you can opt out of family life, and you can become a sannyasin and dedicate yourself to a spiritual life. And that's quite accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Or was, I don't know if it's, but, so they would say, okay, I've done my thing. I've worked. I've had a family. Now I'm, let's say, in my late 50s or 60. Okay, now I'm becoming sannyasin. I'm going to dedicate myself and really not have much to do with my family. Isn't that interesting? Because they go on their own mission, and they dedicate themselves to the path. If they a yogi, then
I can understand
yoga. So it's a culture that supports that, whereas it doesn't necessarily do so for women.
But there's plenty of women that would quite happily, they've reared their family and they're ready to move on to different paths. So
I think that in our Western world, you've had kids, they've left the home, and that's an ideal time. Okay, well, and often that's a time of questioning. Well, what is it all about? My identity as a mother. Once kids have gone, so what do I have left? Well, okay, so there's a sense of maybe an emptiness, loneliness. What's my purpose?
The emptiness,
And then that's ideal breeding ground for spiritual awakening. So actually, what you're seeking for is your soul.
Just depend. Again, I mean, I've never had children, but I've had lots of pets. So it's obviously that's my nurturing side. But there's a point now where I've said to myself, no more pets. Time to, follow the true, as they say.
Yeah, it's common. My sister also, she hasn't had children, but she's got pets. So that's how then you express it.
Yeah. So it's the way the mind's wired. Yeah, because I'm definitely, they're my children, my pets. There's no doubt. But but that's they're going to obviously pass, and so it'll be time to.
It might be a good thing to say, okay, no more pets. I'll just, focus on my spiritual practice.
Yeah. That's the plan.
Yeah. And focus everything on awakening. So okay, this is it's the only purpose is to awaken.
Yeah.
It's not to have more special relationships with humans or pets or anything. It's to awaken to the ultimate truth of who I am.
Yeah.
People might say that's extreme, but
no.
Yeah, no, the awakened beings are extreme. They're like, okay, well, they went fully for it. They didn't do it half measures. They're like
No. Yeah, you got
full on. Ajashanti, I mean, it's like full on. You just like no holds barred, went for it.
Go
It
for
was
it.
like, so there's no kind of, ultimately it's a choice, as Yeshua's teaching. It's the choice between truth and illusion. And you can't be half in illusion, half in the truth.
No.
A little bit of illusion mixed in there isn't going to work. That puts you fully in illusion. So it's kind of an all or nothing deal. And the awakened ones are the ones who got.
Sally's a good example, isn't she? Sally's a good example.
Yeah.
Sally's a good example, and she's had children, and she's decided to go down that path, and she's a shining example. Yeah,
and she's very committed. She had a discipline.
Yeah,
there was a discipline about her practice, and so she was getting these mystic experiences because she disciplined her mind. She was practicing regularly, and it opens you up. So
it was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting listening to her experiences, especially the one where she said she just no longer Sally had gone, and there was nothing. It's all just space or something. That was interesting when she was describing that experience.
Which is that's kind of a universal spiritual experience. You read accounts of people who've awakened, and they say pretty much the same thing. When I had my mystic experience, there was no Jono left. It was gone. The self-concept had dropped entirely in that moment. And there was just a pure awareness. That's where the idea of pure formless awareness came from. Because I was like, well, what would I call that? Pure formless awareness. What else could I say? I was aware, but there was no self-concept that was aware. It just was pure awareness. And this is the a common experience, whatever they might call it. And mystics try and describe these experiences in language, which is difficult because it's an experience. But the language says very similar things. Pure experience. I just went into the void, into the emptiness. There's words don't really do it justice, because emptiness or void don't really. It's not really a void.
Yeah.
It's not nothing. It's something, but it's not something tangible as in this world that you can see it, feel it, touch it, define it. It just is. It's just the isness of being. But it fills you up. It's very fulfilling, even though it's the void and it's empty of form. The formless is empty, but it's full. And you can only really understand this language. I mean, if you're egoic and you're in scientific materialism, you listen to this and you think these people have lost the plot. They're just all crazy.
No.
But you know what I mean? They're just like roll their eyes and go,
but when I'm listening to you, like Sally, when she was giving her experience, I did sort of think, you could see it was definitely genuine.
No doubt.
It was very interesting listening to her experience.
That's what this course is pointing to. It's pointing to that experience. You have start having that experience, consistently. That's the enlightened experience, and then you move beyond words. It's not so much about the words anymore. It's about dropping off. Kim's gone.
How's she gone?
It was a good session.
Oh, it was a good session.
Yeah. Good chat. I'm not sure about embarking on the text now. I think it would be
it's getting a little bit late.
Already.
Yeah, but a good session, good chat. Yeah, no, it's interesting. All very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so I think so. Hopefully it's like a bit of a experiential understanding.
Motivational.
I think what it just comes down to, it's not just about studying the theory of the course and like, okay, we're going to study this for years, learn the content. It's actually about experiencing it in your own life. And having these kinds of awakening experiences. That's what it's designed to do.
Yes.
And that can only be shared experientially. I can share my own experiences. Sally can share her experiences. Other teachers can share their experience. And the ones who've experienced it are the great teachers, because they know they've experienced it. They're not theologians who go, well, the theory says this. The course says that. You can be theoretical about the course. Yeah, okay, you can study it and you have the theoretical understanding all well and good. But the deeper experience, it's only your own experience.
Yes.
That you can only teach that from your experience. If you've had that experience. And that then is hopefully inspiring, because it's like, well, if you had that experience,
it's motivational.
If you had that experience, then someone else could have, anyone could have.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's sharing it, isn't it? So that
not unique to anyone.
Eventually, hopefully, we'll all wake up.
The awakened and awakening beings are not special. They're just people who have a stronger willingness, and therefore a stronger discipline, self-discipline to practice.
Yeah.
It's the willingness and the self-discipline that distinguish them. That's all. They just did more. But like anything, I mean, if you train enough in anything, you're going to start to get some mastery.
Yeah.
So, dedicate your time to training for enlightenment, because that's the only thing that's really worthwhile. All the other goals are pointless.
Which is very temporary, fleeting. Yeah.
Fleeting. Focus on that, because that's taking you somewhere that's true, that's eternal, that's true value.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which is, really where you want to be. There's nowhere else you really want to go but home. So, what the awakened ones of the world have done is focus on that. That becomes their single-minded goal. Like, this is it. I'm here for one reason only. It's to awaken. And all the other goals, the ego events, they bypass, they let them go. And so they are outliers, they're not normal, they're extraordinary in our society, because most people are, consumed by the ego and its goals, and they just go, no, it's only one thing, it's this, and I'm 100% focused on that. Not straight away necessarily, but over time they become more and more focused on it, because they realize there's nothing else to do here. That's it. That's why they're here. So rather focus on that, give your life to a worthy purpose, than fritter it away on endless pointless goals that actually lead you nowhere.
Yeah, true. Right, I'll
okay,
take
then.
the buggies out, and thank you very much. Another very interesting session.
Yeah, it was interesting. It sort of took a surprising turn. I thought we'd do 16 paragraphs of text, but
tomorrow
we used that time for we just move on.
Yeah, go.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was a good discussion.
Yeah, it was a good. Yeah, just motivational and yeah. So thank you very much for that.
Inspires you, just keep going in the right direction.
Oh, I will. Yeah.
Keep going, keep practicing, keep
letting go.
You do the practices.
Letting go.
Keep letting go.
Yeah.
Keep practicing. Maybe doing some of the breath work will help as well.
I think that might be the trick, yes, because that's the trouble is I'm a bit still reactive and emotional. So that breath work could be a good, I shall start doing that.
Yeah, do 3 power breaths a day. As part of your morning spiritual practice. That's going to help. And then you start you're helping yourself, with these practices, you're helping yourself to have more experiential understanding rather than just intellectual, theoretical.
That's it. Yeah.
understands.
Yeah.
Which is why, as part of Atlango, there was the breath breaks, there's the breathing, there's the meditations, the breath breaks, because it's an important part of it, to start to have your own experiences.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, just keep practicing.
Will do. That's great. Thanks very much. I'm going to drop off now.
Yeah, okay. Tomorrow, what are we? Tomorrow evening? Should we do it tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock?
Yeah. That's good for me.
Yeah, start at 6 p.m. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. Excellent.
All right.
Okay, see you then. Thank you. Namaste. Good night.
Thanks for joining. Namaste. All right. So I think that's a wrap for tonight. We'll call it a night there. Thank you to Elaine and Kim for joining, and anyone who watched on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed that. It was a really good session. Some good sharing, and hopefully found that quite inspiring. So if so, join us soon. Put a link below where you can sign up to join us in one of these sessions, and you can also get some of the material I shared up front on Telegram. And if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel for more like it. We do this every day. So hope to catch you on the inside soon. Namaste. Which means the true self in me acknowledges one of that same true self in you. Peace.